let's just be honest for a second. If you're a parent today, you know exactly what the digital battlefield looks like. Between tablets for homework, phones buzzing with group chats, and the TV constantly glowing in the background, it literally feels like a never-ending battle of just 5 more minutes, please. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cutting through all that noise. We're going to unpack the actual science behind the screen time dilemma and give you some dead simple daily routines that actually work in the real world. No guilt trips here, just the facts on your child's developing brain and how we can finally manage technology without it turning into a nightly household war.
Right, so let's tackle the giant elephant in the room first. Is screen time actually ruining your child's brain? Look, we all get that sinking, guilty feeling. You see your kid staring blankly at a screen, zombie-like, and you instantly picture their brain cells just kind of short-circuiting. But here's where the story takes a massive, totally reassuring plot twist. The whole narrative that screens are just straight-up neurotoxic, it's actually being challenged by some incredible new data. It turns out we might be obsessing over the completely wrong metric entirely.
Okay, get ready for a massive sigh of relief. This comes straight from the Oxford ABCD study, which is the absolute largest long-term study on brain development in the US. They looked at a huge group of 9 to 12-year-olds and tracked their brain connectivity using MRI scans. Now, some of these kids were logging over 4 hours of screen time a day. That's like half a school day. And the results? You're not going to believe this. They found literally zero evidence of impaired cognitive function, even with that super high level of digital engagement. So raw screen duration all by itself, not the ultimate brain-melting enemy we thought it was.
So what does this actually mean for us? It means we need to stop just looking at the clock. We have to separate raw screen time, the sheer hours spent passively tapping and swiping, from what clinical researchers call problematic media use. Because honestly, raw time is a pretty terrible way to measure harm. What actually matters is the behavior surrounding it. Are they obsessing over the device? Do you get an absolute full-blown meltdown when the iPad battery dies? Is the screen causing constant daily friction in your family? That is problematic media use. It's not about the timer going off. It's about whether the device is replacing real life or if they can easily just put it down when you say dinner's ready.
And this brings us to neuroplasticity. I know, it sounds super academic, but it's basically just the brain's incredible superpower to rewire itself based on what it experiences. It's like a giant, ever-changing puzzle. And this is exactly where content and context are absolutely crucial. If a kid is just passively viewing, say, mindlessly zoning out to hours of unboxing videos, that actually starves their developing frontal lobe of the stimuli it needs to learn things like real-world social cues. But flip the script. If they're actively engaged in interactive problem solving or creating something on that screen, that actually builds cognitive skills. It promotes neuroplasticity. So it's way less about the glowing rectangle itself and so much more about what their brain is actively doing with it.
Okay, so if raw time isn't the big bad villain and some interactive stuff is actually okay, we got to ask the hard question. Where do screens genuinely cause proven harm? Because let's be real, there definitely is harm if we just let it all go unchecked. The science actually steers us away from worrying about general cognitive decline and points a giant neon arrow directly at one specific, absolutely vital pillar of your child's health.
Yup, the data points us straight to the bedroom. Researchers looked closely at 6 to 12-year-olds and found a massive issue with something called sleep onset latency, which is just a fancy medical way of saying how long it takes a kid to actually fall asleep. The data is super clear here. Kids logging 2 hours or more of screen time a day, they hit a wall. They experience a significantly longer delay in falling asleep compared to kids under that 2-hour mark. We are talking major bedtime resistance, shorter total sleep, and kids waking up super groggy. Screens are literally stealing their rest. And remember, sleep is when their brains consolidate memories and figure out how to regulate those big emotions.
It is basically the perfect biological storm. First off, you've got the blue light. It literally tricks their brain into thinking it's still daytime, suppressing melatonin, that absolutely essential sleep hormone. At the very same time, whatever interactive game or show they're watching is hyping up their cognitive and emotional arousal right when they're supposed to be winding down. Combine that with the fact that late-night media just pushes bedtime later and later, and if that device is actually in the bed with them, forget it. You just turn their quiet sanctuary into a 24/7 arcade.
Now here is where it gets really interesting. Researchers discovered that the actual timing of the screen use is often way worse than the total duration. Think about it. Letting your kid play a racing game at 2 p.m. on a Saturday is a totally different ballgame than letting them play that exact same game at 8 p.m. while tucked into bed. Evening and in-bed device use shows the absolute strongest link to waking up in the middle of the night and being exhausted the next day. Honestly, bedroom devices, they are the ultimate sleep thieves.
Right. So we've identified the real enemies: problematic attachment and wrecked sleep. So, what now? How do we actually fix this without starting World War III in our living rooms? Because we all know that just taking away all the screens cold turkey usually ends in epic tantrums and everyone being miserable. We need to take all this science and turn it into actual, doable daily routines. We need boundaries we can realistically set, and more importantly, boundaries we can happily enforce without feeling like the bad guy every single night.
So, let's build out a daily playbook, and we're going to use the official age-based recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics as our cheat sheet. For the tiny ones under 18 months, screens are pretty much a no-go, unless you're video chatting with grandma. When they hit that 18 to 24-month toddler phase, it's all about high-quality content, but only with co-viewing. You got to watch it with them. By ages 2 to 5, you want to cap it at about an hour a day of good stuff with adult involvement. And once they hit 6 and up, it's all about consistent limits, making sure screens never, ever push out sleep or physical activity.
Okay, let's put this into practice with 4 simple steps. Step 1, co-view. Turn that passive zombie watching into a conversation by asking them what's happening on the screen. Step 2, create strict, zero-exception screen-free zones. The dining table and the bedrooms are absolutely perfect for this. Step 3, and this one's tough, we have to model healthy habits ourselves. If we're doom scrolling through dinner, they're going to want to do it too, right? And step 4, balance the digital time with good old-fashioned sweaty outdoor play. Seriously, locking in these routines can completely shift the energy in your house and cut down those meltdowns dramatically.
Look, if you remember literally nothing else from this explainer today, make it this one rule. Establish a strict, non-negotiable digital curfew exactly 1 hour before bed. 1 hour. This single, super simple routine change is a total game changer. It gives your child's brain the buffer it needs to cool down from all that interactive arousal. It lets their natural melatonin actually do its job without blue light getting in the way, guaranteeing a much deeper, restorative sleep. Just keep the chargers in the kitchen, not the bedroom. I promise you, this 1 hour can totally transform your child's mood and focus for the better.
At the end of the day, screens are a permanent fixture in our kids' world. There is no putting the digital genie back in the bottle, and honestly, we shouldn't want to. But by understanding the real science, knowing that raw hours aren't nearly as dangerous as problematic habits and sleep disruption, we hold the power to shape how this tech is used. You really don't need to carry that parent guilt anymore. You just need a solid plan. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Knowing what you know now about the developing brain and the absolute magic of a good night's sleep, how are you going to redesign your family's digital routine tonight?